Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06. It's O'Connor and Company this Monday morning. Thanks for tuning in. Right here, live from your nation's capital. It's America's Morning Show. At 8:05, Carrie Pickett, Washington Times, will be our guest. And at 8:35, Alex Marlowe from Breitbart News. Brand new special permanent seat for the rest of this year, at least. Covering Pentagon. Breitbart News. New regime, new Secretary of Defense, new president, new relationship with the media. With Breitbart News and New York Post covering the Pentagon in place of NPR and the New York Times. It's a beautiful thing. It's Larry O'Connor here with Julie Gunlock there. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Joining us right now, as he always does at this time when we're lucky, is Joe diGenova, legal analyst and former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia. And, the new U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia is making some news here that I want to share with you too, Joe. But first, good morning. How are you?
Just great. Yeah, better every day.
Good. Well, I thought you'd have a spring in your step after the weekend's news and after Kash Patel's confirmation hearing. Let's start here with this so-called purge at the FBI. Donald Trump thinks that investigators at the FBI who spent the last 8 years investigating him for criminal activity can't necessarily be trusted to carry out his agenda now at the Justice Department. Is that a fair assumption for the president to make? Because I'm told that this is Stalinist, that he is the fact that he is firing FBI investigators who made a career out of investigating him is a problem. Seems to me it's rather sort of logical that they can't be impartial in their jobs.
It is logical. Donald J. Trump was the target and victim of a conspiracy to deny him his constitutionally protected rights in violation of federal law. This conduct of those responsible should be the subject of a special counsel investigation, and it can be preceded by firings and by demotions. If anybody with a brain knew in 2017 that a plot was afoot to undermine Donald Trump, the Russia allegations were known to be fraudulent, just like the Hunter Biden laptop was known to be truthful. Everybody in the FBI and the DOJ who couldn't see that there was a conspiracy against Donald Trump led by people at the top, including James Comey, and people who were then senior people in the Justice Department who were cowards. A guy named Rod Rosenstein, who was the Deputy Attorney General, carried out this monstrous decision to appoint Mueller to investigate nothing. All of those people apparently lost all of their professional judgment, couldn't see that something was underway that was wrong. And now they complain about being fired because their judgment sucked. No, that's not the way it works. What's happening right now is well-deserved. And all these people in the U.S. Attorney's Office complaining about this new conduct by Ed Martin, the acting U.S. Attorney, to hold accountable people who exercise very bad judgment. You know what you do if you're in an office like that and you're asked to do something that you think is improper? You say, I'm not going to do it, and you can be fired. And if you do something you know that's improper to just keep your job, you deserve to be fired.
Yeah. Add to the investigations of Donald Trump.
This is not a close call.
Yeah.
And the FBI, the senior FBI people who are objecting to it now, Mr. President, fire them today.
So they're also being they're being questioned if they had a supervisory role in the January 6th investigations as well. And it appears as though a good handful of people from the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office have been dismissed because of their conduct in the January 6th investigations. Their argument, Joe, is, listen, we were doing our job. We were told to investigate. There were crimes committed. Our supervisors in the Justice Department told us to do our job. Why should we be fired for investigating crimes?
Yeah. Well, that's the Nuremberg defense, and it doesn't work. The bottom line is this. You don't obey an illegal order. Every one of those prosecutors is sophisticated. They know when something smells. I knew in 2017, right at the beginning, that this was fraudulent, that this investigation was phony. I was called a conspiracy theorist until Mueller and Horowitz verified precisely that there was no basis for investigating Donald Trump. And yet, Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, ordered Mueller, knowing that there was no basis for it, to cover his fanny. And that guy shows up at Fed SOC dinners, Republican National Committee dinners, swilling around, rubbing elseworlds with people, time to ingratiate himself back in DOJ. There's no place for people like Rod Rosenstein and the people in the FBI who conspired to deny Donald Trump his civil rights. Remember that memo that Susan Rice wrote on Inauguration Day 2017? President Obama, on January 5th, said, investigate Donald Trump by the book. We got a lot of subpoenas to go out soon, and Barack Obama gets number one.
Joe, just one quick last question on this issue. Do you trust that we will get a complete list, or that rather Trump administration will get a complete list of those that were involved, or will they try to hide things? They're already dragging their feet on getting this list together, but they're going to do everything they can to use civil service laws. We're not political. You can't. They're doing this now. Some of the people in the U.S. Attorney's Office that I used to lead, they say this acting U.S. attorney is politicizing the office. No. That office was politicized by Matthew Graves long before Ed Martin ever got there. And if you, as an assistant U.S. attorney, say that the office is being politicized now, you're gone.
Joe, hold on. Just let me check the time here. Yeah, we got a little. U.S. Attorney, acting U.S. Attorney, Mr. Martin, has also asked Chuck Schumer to respond to an inquiry. You remember Chuck Schumer standing in front of the Supreme Court back in March of 2020, talking about Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, saying they would pay the price for a vote against Roe v. Wade. Mr. Martin now,
yes, you won't know
5 years a little late, but he said, can you please explain these? I've received many complaints about those remarks, and considering the heightened risk against Supreme Court justices and some of the violence that has been threatened against them, can you please explain your remarks? What do you make of that?
I think it's absolutely essential. What Chuck Schumer did on that day was an incitement to violence. He should have been sent a letter immediately at that time by the Justice Department warning him that if he did not withdraw the marks and say something very serious and apologize for them and apologize specifically to the justice, which he never did. He only issued some sort of pablum statement that he didn't intend X, Y, and Z. The bottom line is this. That was a very good letter that Ed Martin sent, and he ought to interview Schumer. He ought to force Schumer to be interviewed by the FBI. And by the way, if the FBI refuses to take that order and interview Schumer, all of those people should be fired. The bottom line is this. There was an election. A decision was made that things were done to Donald Trump that were unconstitutional. If the people in the FBI and DOJ don't like that, get another job.
I want to get to Kash Patel's hearings and Tulsi Gabbard's hearings this week. Do you mind sticking around, Joe, real fast?
Oh, it would be my pleasure.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
And we continue, as promised, 1 minute later with Joe diGenova. And real fast, Joe, just to button up this Chuck Schumer thing, because a lot of people are saying, oh, this is a violation between the executive branch and the legislative branch, and you can't. He made a point, Ed Martin did, in this letter, reminding Chuck Schumer that when he made his threatening remarks against Supreme Court justices, which, by the way, is also a violation of the separation of powers between legislative and the judicial branch, Chuck Schumer was speaking at a private rally outside of his role in the Senate. This was not, he wasn't making remarks as a senator from New York or as the majority leader. These were private. That's a very important distinction, is it not?
It's not protected speech. It's not covered by the speech or debate clause because it didn't happen on the floor of the Senate or in committee or in an official piece of correspondence. He's liable for everything he says in public. That is not covered by the speech or debate clause. Oh, he's going to make an argument that it was an extension of his role as majority leader, and it was the same thing, only a block away from the floor of the Senate, but it's not. Martin was absolutely correct. Those are not statements covered by speech or debate, and he is completely liable for them, and he has to answer questions. He's going to try and refuse to answer questions. He's going to claim that it's speech or debate, and we'll have litigation over it, and I can think of nothing better than Chuck Schumer to be tied up in federal court litigating outrageous comments that he made on the steps of the Supreme Court. What Chuck Schumer did was endanger the lives of 2 Supreme Court justices, and shortly thereafter, sure enough, some guy comes down to suburban Maryland and tries to kill Brett Kavanaugh. Chuck Schumer should have been disbarred after that, but the cowards in the New York bar won't do anything about Democrats. They protect Democrats in New York. This is disgusting what Chuck Schumer did, and I applaud Ed Martin, the acting U.S. attorney. This guy is a hero, notwithstanding. By the way, I've seen emails floating around because people send me all kinds of stuff between former assistant U.S. attorneys in the office. These are old Democrats, all good lawyers, used to be great prosecutors, but they've never given up being loyal Democrats. They hate this guy, Martin. They hate President Trump. They hate Pam Bondi. And you know what? They're never going to get over it. And that's why Ed Martin and the department have to continue to do exactly what they're doing.
And by the way, it should also be pointed out, Elena Kagan can go to Wegmans, and she's just fine. Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Clarence Thomas, they have 24/7 security now because of this kind of despicable, disgusting behavior.
Well, it's free speech. And, you know, when you threaten a justice, that's free speech, according to them.
Yeah. Joe, what do you think? I thought Kash Patel was absolutely brilliant in the way he handled it, and he recognized that people like, Amy Klobuchar were not going to be on her side, so why ingratiate himself to her? He handled her with the respect she deserved, which wasn't much. What did you think of your new FBI director?
I thought he did a superb job, and I was only hoping he had an empty binder he could throw at Amy Klobuchar.
Oh, my goodness. That may have been a bit too much.
Yeah, well, he wasn't going to do that. He's too smart. He did a great job. He's going to be confirmed. He's going to be a great FBI director, and he answered all their questions truthfully. They are not going to politicize the FBI. They are going to do exactly what they should do. By the way, there's a question lingering in my mind because I don't know the answer. Does James Comey still have a security clearance? If he doesn't, what are they waiting for? And does Christopher Wray still have his security clearance? And what is the president waiting for?
Yeah. Also, Vindeman, why does he have a security clearance? Wanted to ask you about Tulsi Gabbard. First, your thoughts on how she did, and also we're starting to see maybe Fetterman has said that he hasn't ruled out voting against her, so there's some movement there. How did you feel about her confirmation hearing?
It was okay. I mean, she did exactly what you should do, which is not answer directly certain questions which are uncomfortable. That's what Kash Patel did. He went on offense, and she did a very good job. She's a very different individual. I can understand why people are somewhat taken aback by the nomination, but she's been in the military. She's served overseas. She's been a member of Congress. I mean, she is different. There's no question about it. I mean, that's part of the nature of being a Hawaiian. You know, when you're from an island republic that used to have a queen and a king, and you look at Kilauea and you worry about it, you're different. And she's different. And, I'm not sure she's going to make it. I mean, there are a lot of Republicans in the Senate who are really weak-kneed. The president does not have the team that he needs in the Senate. In my book, if this is the person the president wants, he gets my vote. That's it. It's over.
That's right.
These other senators who think deeply about this, these idiots could never run a small hamburger stand.
Yeah,
they don't understand. You watch them ruminating during the hearings and hear them outside giving interviews to the press.
Yeah.
These guys do not understand the exercise of power. They will be trampled by a Democratic majority if Chuck Schumer ever gets back into power. These people are weak. And my view is very simple. I may not like the nominee, but if it's my president and after what he went through to get his second term, he gets everybody he wants.
Yeah. And you had 51 experienced intel people who published that misleading letter about Hunter Biden. So I don't know if anybody has a leg to stand on when they criticize Tulsi.
Let me just say something. I'd make my day. Leon Panetta lost his security clearance. I'm having a party every night.
Joe, it appears that the big hang-up for a lot of these Republicans is that Tulsi Gabbard wouldn't just come out and say that Ed Snowden committed treason. She said he broke the law. He should be punished for breaking the law. But it should be pointed out that some of the information that Edward Snowden released revealed that James Clapper had sat in that very chair and lied to that very committee under oath. He never got punished for it. But Edward Snowden revealed the lies about the NSA and the data collection that they were performing, and that resulted in the Obama administration changing those policies. Now, I make no excuse for Edward Snowden, but you got to admit that what he did actually resulted in exposing some pretty bad stuff, people who still haven't been punished, like James Clapper.
No question about it. And this is part of the yin and yang of duplicity and conduct like that. There's some good that goes along with the awfulness. And the fact is, he did break U.S. law. He should be prosecuted. He should go to prison. But it's also true that James Clapper clearly committed perjury in front of Congress, and he was never prosecuted because in the old days, senior government officials were given a pass. Those days are over, because when they went after Trump as an incoming and sitting president, James Comey and Rod Rosenstein in the Justice Department. Remember, Rosenstein was a Republican appointee of Donald Trump, and he has this patina of being, he's so wonderful, he didn't let politics interfere. You have to be an idiot to have authorized the investigation of Donald Trump. Anybody with an ounce of brains knew there was nothing to the Russiagate thing. And so when you look at a guy like Clapper, who purposely lied to Congress, there's no doubt that he should have been prosecuted. So you can say whatever you want about Snowden. I'm game to lock him up, but he also revealed that there were a lot of Americans committing crimes who got away with it.
Thanks, Joe. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next one.
Yeah.
724.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:36. It's O'Connor and Company. It's your favorite little morning duo to start your day, Larry and Julie. And by the way, neither of us have ever taken one penny from U.S. aid, so we have nothing to worry about. I am concerned about all of our colleagues who are so upset about this, Julie. How much money have they been getting from the State Department, for God's sake? Coming up later in the program at 8:05, we're going to be joined by Carrie Pickett of Washington Times, and then 8:35, Alex Marlowe of Breitbart News Network. Julie, the DNC is in trouble. They had to have an election over the weekend to vote on their new chair, their new vice chairs. Watching the process was fantastic. They really are completely clueless as to where this country is right now. What was the thing they used to scream at Glenn Youngkin when he would walk into a grocery store without a mask on?
Read the room.
Read the room.
Read the room.
Read the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, the DNC is not reading the room,
boy.
the room that is the United States of America.
They are
They're
not
fine
tired
in
of
D.C.
losing.
or in Manhattan. No, they really aren't. They've chosen their new chair. Ladies and gentlemen, drum roll please. The new chair of the Democratic National Committee is Ken Martin. Yeah, that's exciting, isn't it? Ken Martin.
Let's get to the vice chair.
Ken Martin. We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
The chair of the DNC is now Ken Martin, whose claim to fame is he ran the far-left, radical Democrat Party organization in the state of Minnesota. Yes, that's right. The state that brought you Tim Walz.
And burning cities and leaving the windows open so you can smell the smoke. Yeah.
So the party that elevated Tim Walz to national stature has now rewarded the chairman there. And here's a little glimpse. This is Ken Martin in 2019, even before St. Paul was burning because of George Floyd. Here's Ken Martin, who is now your chief of the DNC, back in 2019. Listen.
So I have to admit that I have my own white privilege here. And but that doesn't prevent me from seeing the phobias that exist throughout our communities, both in Minnesota and, frankly, throughout this country.
To quote Gwen Waltz, they're not turning the page.
No, they're not. They're just doubling down. They're doubling down on everything. By the way, there was a moment, I don't know if we had an opportunity to grab this, but where somebody with, we do have this. Listen, so the ballot process is going forward for all the vice chairs, right?
Right.
And apparently there was a problem because so many people wanted to be vice chair, and they didn't properly break down with regard to gender identity the way the rules dictate. So listen to cut 13. This is Jamie Harrison trying to explain to everybody what they had to do with regard to voting for the right gender.
Trying and failing.
We're finding out ways to expedite this. Because of our gender balance provisions on this next ballot, you will be able to vote for 2 candidates of any gender on the next ballot. Okay? So on this next ballot, you will be able to vote for 2 candidates of any gender on the next ballot. If 2 candidates receive... I'm going to turn to Helen to clarify this last part.
I had no idea. By the way, I love it. You're allowed to vote for anyone of any gender. Up until that point, you were not allowed to do that. You had to vote for one or the other. Although I think there's more than 2, right? Isn't there like 17 or 24?
Is there even a number? It's just like unending.
59 how dare you put genders
Helen
in a box like that?
It.
So here comes Helen. Helen's going to explain it all to you.
Very clear.
No more confusion here. Here's Helen.
You are in this next ballot where you have 2 votes. As the chair has said, you may vote for 2 males, 2 females, 2 of any gender. Okay? Nope, you can't do that because we've got to balance. You could vote for 1 of any gender. Okay? Or no, non-binary gender, excuse me. It is late. Okay?
It is late. Yes, Helen. Yes, Helen, it's very late.
They still didn't quite figure it out.
No.
Well, here's the funny thing. At the end of the day, they ended up with 2 white dudes.
I know.
After all that, who theoretically are straight. I think David Hogg is straight. I don't know. The vice chair is David Hogg. Now, David Hogg's major claim to fame.
Hogg. Oh.
Here's the thing about David. So now you're going to criticize. David Hogg is politically brilliant. I'm afraid of this man actually being the vice chair of the DNC because think about it for a minute. What is his major claim to fame? His classmates were murdered in a school shooting, and he somehow turned that tragedy into a free ride to Harvard when he only had like a 1270 SAT.
Yeah.
And he's a white dude. You try to be a stupid white dude without rich parents and a legacy at Harvard and get into that institution, but he figured it out, right?
Yep.
I've got a brilliant son who's half white, half Asian, and they didn't even let him apply, let alone get admitted. But David Hogg, all he has to do is witness his classmates getting killed, and he's
on
done.
Their dead bodies. I mean,
exactly.
Yep.
He's very tall when he stands on those dead bodies.
Yes,
That's a lot
he is. You got to respect the grift.
David Hogg was able to turn the Obama administration's policies of letting a deranged murderer stay in the school because of inclusion principles.
Yep.
He turned that into, now he's the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee at the age of, 24?
Bright future for that monster.
Let's give you a quick rundown of some of David Hogg's policy positions. Abolish ICE, defund the police. The NRA needs to be designated as a terrorist organization. Unlike COVID, there's no vaccine for climate change. And if the election is a matchup between Taylor Swift and Ted Nugent, I think it's safe to say I've seen enough. Biden wins in 2024.
Yeah.
This is a brilliant, brilliant voice of a new generation. And I, for one, am very excited.
Well, we're thrilled because we may never lose another election, Larry. My goodness.
You go, David. Secretary of State Rubio, as you know, went right to Panama. Here's what the president had to say.
Secretary of State Rubio is in Panama right now, and we're talking about the Panama Canal. What they've done is terrible. They violated the agreement. They're not allowed to violate the agreement. China's running the Panama Canal. That was not given to China. That was given to Panama foolishly. But they violated the agreement, and we're going to take it back, or something very powerful is going to happen.
Well, something powerful did happen. Marco Rubio announced late yesterday that Panamanian President Jose Raul Molino has announced that his country would not renew its agreement with China's so-called Belt and Road Initiative. We don't know what happened behind closed doors, but Panama has come around. They've decided, yep, okay, China is no longer going to have influence and control over certain aspects of the control of the Panama Canal and the roads that lead up to it and away from it. And whatever it is that happened behind closed doors, it's something that did not happen during the Biden administration.
Yeah, but the most important thing for Panama is to remain in control of the Panama Canal. The United States has the right to take back the Panama Canal, and I think the president of Panama, Molino, was very smart to rethink it and think, you know what, maybe
he was reminded of that
fact, and that is what diplomacy
Here's all
is all
Marco
about.
Rubio had to do.
All he had to do.
Yeah. Open up a little folder and says, hey, here's our treaty, and here's the language in it, and here's what we can do if we want to. Now, are you going to continue to do things that make us want to do that, or are we going to continue to play nice?
Probably also smart to remind the president of Panama who the better friend is, China or the U.S.
Yeah. Well, that's just one good bit of news over the weekend. Also, Special Envoy for Special Missions, Rick Grinnell, was dispatched to Venezuela to meet with dictator Nicolas Maduro, and he returned with 6 American detainees, hostages that have been held there. Biden administration never even talked about these poor Americans. The media never focused on it. I didn't even know they were down there. Rick Grinnell goes down, has a meeting with Maduro, comes back with 6 detainees. And also, by the way, at the same time, President Trump has revoked temporary protective status for the 300,000 Venezuelans who are in this country. What was so hard? What happened here that Biden couldn't do, that Kamala Harris couldn't do, that Alejandro Mayorkas couldn't do?
It's absolutely true. I mean, nothing is putting in sharper relief than the wins that we had this weekend, which appear to not have been that difficult to reach. And again, I'm not downplaying what was done, but it really was a matter of showing up to work and having a conversation.
Well, if you watch Morning Joke this morning, you'll hear Joe and Mika screaming about tariffs with Canada and how this is going to cripple our economy. Let me just be clear here. We will win a trade war with Canada if that's what they want. The president announced that there will be a 25% tariff on that country. That hurts them a lot more than it's going to hurt us. And here was the response. This is a woman who wants to be Prime Minister of Canada, Chrystia Freeland. Here's Canada's response to America.
Americans have to understand how hurt and, frankly, how furious Canadians are.
They don't care.
Our sovereignty is being challenged. And so, regular Canadians across the country are coming up with ways to stand for Canada, to fight for Canada, to defend Canada, but mostly to say to our American neighbors, guys, just cut it out. Just stop it. This is a terrible idea.
There you go. Yes, that'll do it. That'll absolutely fix the problem. Just have some Canadian Karen stand up with her up-talking and say, guys, cut it out.
Yeah. Why doesn't Canada cut it out with the fentanyl coming over our border? Why don't you work a little harder to stop that? Yeah. Then we'll cut it out, okay? Margaret?
Real simple. It's 7:54.
Cut it out. Get out of here.